Prayers and meditation last night on the shores of Surfside, Florida. Dozens gathered in tribute to the families and the victims of the devastating condo collapse. Now, steps away from the vigil, search and rescue crews continue their painstaking search around the clock. Jackson Prosco is on the ground in Surfside, joins us with the latest. Jackson, thank you so much. Obviously, an incredibly difficult time. We are entering the 6th day of the search. Still considered a search and rescue, but are rescuers holding out any hope of finding people alive at this point?
Good morning to you, Anthony. They are holding out hope, and they say hope is what drives them, but they're also increasingly realistic that the window for finding people alive narrows by the hour. Not just, of course, because of the time frame here, but also the conditions at the site where that building pancaked. Now, we did hear from rescue workers yesterday that they have discovered through their work that there are voids in that pancake building that would be big enough for a person theoretically to have survived, but they also still have not detected any signs of life. Still, the presence of those voids is why they're continuing to push forward so methodically and slowly, hoping that there is some sort of miracle awaiting them. And I can tell you that speaking with an Israeli rescue worker who flew in yesterday at the request of the families, he tells me that given the scope of this disaster, even finding just one person alive in that rubble would be an absolute miracle at this point.
Yeah, at this point, for sure. And we're seeing images from a distance. Family members have been able to tour the site privately. Describe what they are seeing.
For the past few days, they've loaded up on buses from the hotel behind me and headed to the site, and they're given sort of these private moments to view the site, to pray, but also to understand the conditions there. And I spoke with one member of Miami Fire Rescue yesterday, and she tells me that essentially being there for the families helps them come to grips perhaps with information that up until now has been hard to process and understand. And if you read between the lines there, I think what she's saying is they've been told that there is not a lot of optimism, just given the conditions there, about finding people alive. But it may take seeing that in person for families to truly understand that.
Now, Jackson, you mentioned the conditions. Give us a sense of how large a scope the rescue effort is right now and the conditions on the ground and really how dangerous it can be for them.
The building collapsed in what's being described as a clean collapse. It came basically straight down, and so it is pancaked within the confines of the building site. But that site is incredibly dangerous. They call the pile of rubble the mound, and we heard yesterday that one rescue worker, as debris started to shift, actually fell about 25 feet, 15 meters off that pile of rubble yesterday. So these rescue workers are proceeding very cautiously and at grave risk to their own health and safety. Even the rescue dogs that are there, the sniffer dogs, are becoming exhausted by the heat and by the tough conditions. And so they're working these 12-hour shifts and then they take 12 hours off, but it's absolutely exhausting. And we know that this is the largest search and rescue deployment in Florida's history outside of a hurricane.
I know there will be plenty of time to answer this question, but do they have any sense what caused this collapse in the first place?
They don't, but there is sure a lot of concerning information here that's starting to come into focus. In 2018, an engineering firm hired by the condo building as part of a 40-year building recertification found major structural damage that they said needed to be addressed immediately. And yet just 5 weeks later, a building inspector, the chief building inspector for Surfside, actually met with the condo board and said that things appeared to be fine, that the building was in good shape. Something is just not adding up there. There's additional reporting this morning from a pool servicing company that the pool, the area below it, the concrete showed severe cracking and fracturing and spalling where the metal rebar was exposed. So all of this seems to be adding up to a picture of a building that at the very least was not properly maintained, and at the absolute worst needed major repairs that had not been undertaken yet. We understand $15 million worth of repairs were set to be levied against the building, resulting in massive $10,000 and $100,000 assessments against the condominium unit owners in the coming months.
Incredibly sad story. We know this is painstaking and a grueling effort for the rescue workers at this point. Obviously, a harrowing wait for all the families of the victims. Jackson, thank you so much. Jackson Prosco joining us from Surfside, Florida.